Welcome back to the Dr. Supercoach podcast, once again powered by our partners at Code Sports. On with me tonight to talk about all things round 2 in Supercoach. I have Pistol with me. How you going, champion? I see that you've been up and about in the group chat. I can only presume that you've had a decent week.
It's true. I've been very much up and about. I came in...
Intolerable is the word that I was looking for.
Look, after a year of being, having the sads, I would have hoped that you guys would have been happy for me, to be honest. But a 2-3-8-8 last round, 302nd for the week, leaving some... I also lost the rookie roulette, losing some key points, but jumping up 41k spots overall, 2-3, just over 3k. That's now the highest I've been in the last, since the beginning of last season. And, so I'm absolutely over the moon. I said my team was good last week, and I felt like I just had an unlucky week, and the team really came through and hopefully proved me correct. And I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks, hoping to just continue the roll.
Yeah, so tell me what you were faced with last week and what moves you make to kind of turn things around.
So I had Jelly, who was KO'd, and I was like, look, I'm missing some key components here. My backline has Jones at D2, who was also injured, and I'm like, look, I'm going to need another defender. So given it would be absolutely unbearable to watch Collingwood games without Nick Dacos, I used that to my advantage to bring him in, and then with that other change as well, because I had 2 failed mid-prices, being Ash and Bruin. I traded Bruin to Goulden, so they were pretty straightforward, nothing crazy trades. But getting, I guess, and Callahan with that third one, but getting in those 2 premiums for Jelly just let me structure my side, I guess, the way that I probably should have in round 1. Given I know people, you might remember I had Mackenzie on the bench. For M9 after the first round. So just structure my side a little bit better. And finally, my plan will be put to good use this week when I finish my structure, and because I still have one too many midfielders, but I'll finally get rid of Callahan, who I just brought in, and Jones.
What do you mean finally get rid of him? You've had it for 48 hours.
I mean, finally my bench, the situation will resolve itself. I'll put probably Jones to Chandler. I'm talking very early days, and then I'll be able to afford Callahan to Jay-Z. I know I just brought him in, but he's the only way that I can get to Jay-Z, and I think Zeeble will prove to be a shrewd selection and keep me, I guess, ahead of the curve, because not too many people are able to get all the good mid-prices and Dacos and Goulden, so I think I'm in a very strong position heading into the third round.
Yeah, and considering that, a lot of the mid-prices so far this year have been semi-decent, the fact that I ended up with Ash as my only mid-pricer is just, it's just chef's kiss 2023 Supercoach for Cheezo's champs. This week I had a 22-12, bouncing back from last week, up to a season rank of 37,300, up 40k ranks from last week.
That's big. So that's a big jump.
Yeah, so this has been probably one of the poorest starts. Considering last year was very, very similar. I'm more happy with my team this year compared to last year being in the exact same position. I think after 4 rounds, after a little bit of the variance has gone out and the pure structure of some of these teams wins out. I think I'll probably be top 10k. I'm definitely a little bit behind the top coaches such as yourself. I had Jelly as well last week, and unfortunately I had a bit of a short week as I was heading off to a good friend's Bucks party, and I've got people who've been following the podcast for a while, Pistol, will know what happened last time I was on a Bucks party.
You traded in Jelly when he was injured.
I traded in Jelly when he was injured. And ended up getting, there was a Carlton mature age rookie, I forget his name, who came on and scored more than Liberatore, who I had traded out that week. And so I gained myself points by trading in a Jelly donut that week. And it was just pure coincidence that this time around I already had Jelly, but still he missed. Isn't that interesting?
You couldn't trade him in? So you didn't know what to do. You just held Trent.
I couldn't trade him in, so I couldn't ruin it. Basically, this is the exciting thing for me, Pistol, is I thought, look, let's just make nothing complicated. I had not a lot of time this week to kind of make really in-depth analysis before heading away. And so I thought, look, I know I want to do Flanders to Cheezo because Flanders is a dud and I need Cheezo, and I'll work out the remaining trades next week. And when I did that, I reversed trades that took Jelly out, took Ash out, and took Flanders out, and I had brought in LDU, Dacos, and a 123k rookie, which was Chandler. So I literally took out Dacos, LDU, and Chandler this week to get Sheasel, because I didn't want to think about it. I didn't want to go too complex. And now this week I can only get one of LDU and Sheasel. LDU and Dacos, because I'm obviously not going to trade Jelly now that he's back. It's almost like I hope he's got like lingering concussion. Is that a bad thing to say?
No, definitely not.
It's a terrible thing to say. No. You're right, Pistol.
Terrible.
But yeah, so fighting back, hoping to make I'm going to be boosting this week, Pistol. I think you are as well. So I think there's going to be a few moves. We should jump into some housekeeping. Pistol, you've written this in bold letters, so I imagine this is important to you. You wanted me to mention that Last Coach Standing,
yes,
the Dr. SuperCoach Patreon-only competition, will be beginning this week. You finally fixed the joining link on the Patreon website, so if you do want to join up and be a part of that, you can actually join the group now, whereas previously it took you to a 404 error.
Pistol,
as the computer guy...
That's because the biggest thing.
They've got competition. They've got competition running through their veins. The less people that can enter, the better.
I don't know how. There was 200 people joined. Last year we had 700. 200 people joined. And I was like, wow, that's not many. Why? I wonder why that is. And then I clicked the link that I shared. And it didn't go to the right group. But no one told me. So I guess the 200 people used the code that I said, whatever the code was. But no one told me. So I fixed it up. But we'll start this week instead because I screwed it up. So my apologies for getting the link totally wrong. We'll start it and start culling some of the coaches at the end of this week. So make sure you jump in.
Just like cash cows.
Yeah, make sure you jump in and I'll repost the link this week as well, just for good measure.
And Pistol has confirmed he will be on next week's podcast as well to apologise to those that had a great week this week but have a poor week next week and unfortunately get the cut when they would have obviously stayed in. So he has confirmed he will be doing that. Pistol, we'll jump over to the Cancer Council. Yes. We do have a couple more donations. Absolutely. We have cracked the 25,000, which is literally incredible. Dylan Johns had Jay-Z and Dacos in for Braun and Jelly, but all but confirmed on Wednesday night, but overthought it and reversed it come Thursday. # dumb things.
Donating for dumb things.
I think, I need to do that too. And Spicer Josh, defender goals for charity. Nick Dacos, time for Dos Kane, Farrell, Liam Baker, Nathan Broad, Brennan Cox, so he's donated as well for all the defenders that kick goals this year. So thank you very much for that. One more thing, Pistol, that we've got a couple more housekeeping moments. Just yeah.
No,
over on the drsupercoach.com.au, the merch store, we do have a couple messages that have come through donations. Johnny Blaze says, please give a shout out to my ex Lisa for me. She has stage 4 cancer and appreciated a last shout out on the podcast after a donation. So big shout out to Lisa, who's I'll link that in with the Cancer Council there as well. Just a good hope
thanks,
things are going
Johnny,
well.
Appreciate it, and thanks Lisa as well.
Yeah, and Darren McMillan says, your coverage of the practice games was elite, very helpful. Thank you very much. I appreciate you too, Darren. We've only got just the 3 shout-outs this week.
All special.
Pistol, Jeff P,
except
Aaron
Jeff P.
Jory, and Jay Staines.
Awesome. No, thanks very much, the 3 of you. Appreciate it. Get in there. Hope you're already involved in Slack. It's already been a hot start to the year, and it's only going to get hotter.
Yeah. Pistol, let's jump into some SuperCoach content because that's what everyone's been frothing for at the moment. The first thing we should say off the top of the show, mate, is that this podcast is going to have a lot of information. And unlike last week, which it was like really general advice that everyone could take in, some of the things we say this week is going to be very, very team dependent. We're getting a lot of questions about which mid-pricer do I get, or if I had to pick one out of Goulden, Dacos, LDU, who am I getting? This is going to be super team dependent. So take everything we say with a grain of salt and weigh it up against what your actual side looks like before we say go and get X. I think that's really important to say at the top of the show. Pistol, do you have anything further on that?
No, I just logically, if you have 4 defenders and we're saying, oh yeah, get Dacos before Goulden.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not going to work for your side, so don't do that. It's very difficult to give general advice, and then people say, oh, you said to do this and not to do that. And I'm like, well, your team needs a defender, so obviously prioritize that. Or your team needs a midfielder, so prioritize that. So just keep that in mind, because a lot of messages over the last week where it's specific team advice. Jay-Z is going to cause nightmares. I can already tell this week, because people are going to be like, oh, you said to get Setterfield, not to get Jay-Z. I'm like, well, look at your side and look at your forward line and look at your back line, and you might need extra players there and not in the midfield, and I'm sure it's going to cause a bit of a mess. So heads up, everybody. Please, be a bit logical with it.
Yeah, sure. So let's jump into the most important topic this week, or the one that we've been getting the most messages about, and that's which of the successful mid-prices do we think that we should be prioritising if we don't have them already? And that comes from the 4 of Setterfield, Jay-Z, Warple and Hopper. Pistol, I'm going to throw it over to you because you actually have picked a successful mid-pricer and I haven't, so I feel like your voice is a lot more important than mine. Setters, Jay-Z, Warple and Hopper, just break it down for us.
So I guess the way I'm kind of coming at it is Jay-Z looks like he could be a keeper, and that's the most important thing for me. If he's not a forward keeper, he might be a defender keeper, kind of around that final 6th spot for either line. His role is really good. Maybe not the 110 of 2 seasons ago, but he could average 100. The role is tight. He's only 360 odd K. The price is kind as well, and the flexibility of having the 2 positions once he gets the defensive status is really appealing, especially with his partner in crime down back with Cheezo likely also getting that DPP. I think that will be kind of fun, and being able to have both of them switching lines, it's kind of cool. So it's hard to prioritize, say, hey, prioritize him above Setterfield because your midfield might be weak and then you might need a midfielder. So then, of course, Setterfield, I find them both. I would 100% be getting at least one of them if I have to put a blanket statement. Get one of them in, and if you need that extra forward, or if you need that extra defender coming down the line, then get that Jay-Z. If you need more of a midfielder, get Setterfield. Setterfield, for me, Cheezo, he had 90% CBAs last week, so he went from that 4th rotational mid to the number 1 mid. He's put in now 3, including the practice match, 3 consecutive performances of 25 touches, 6+ tackles, which raises his SuperCoach ceiling, his floor to at least a 90. So I see he honestly, do you think it's out of the realms of possibility that he just averages 105 for the whole season?
It's definitely not out of the realms of the possibility. It's not something that I had really expected going into the season. I literally, when I think about the Essendon midfielders that we have, I just felt like there was too many mouths to feed in terms of getting CBAs and getting mid-time. And he's literally just walked in and pushed everyone out. I mean, he's pushed Darcy Parish out. And Darcy Parish has the highest percentage of his disposals coming from a CBA of anyone else in the competition, or I think there's 1 or 2 more than him that are not ruckman. And Setterfield has just gone, you know what, Paz, get out of the way. I'm the leader now, and that is something that I literally did not predict, but had always thought he was a fantastic acquisition for the Bombers because we needed his body type in the midfield.
That's the key thing, Cheezo. All the other midfielders are kind of samey body type, where Setterfield's, that 192 centimeter bigger bodied type of midfielder, and I think that means his longevity for that midfield. I don't feel like we're going to get halfway through the season and he's going to be pushed out. I think at worst he's the fourth midfielder in, which is like 40% CBAs, which is totally fine because realistically you're going to get him to up to his bye and reassess. I can't imagine that I'm jumping off in 2 weeks. I mean, maybe if he puts out a terrible score and the timing works out with Oliver, I guess maybe. But at least if you're bringing him in, you're probably bringing him thinking I'll deal with him when he is my 8th midfielder and I can trade him at that point in time, because you'd think he's going to make 200k, which is a huge tick, and he's going to score a lot of points on the way. So in terms of priority, he's right up there with Jay-Z this week.
Yeah, I agree. The next, I actually agree with the lineup that you have as well. Talk to me. Has the recent injury to Hopper's knee influenced your decision making there at all? Because watching the game, like if you completely forget about the fact he tried to snap his leg off, he was actually phenomenal.
Yeah, he was pretty much best on ground. It's pretty crazy because I think they kept saying during the week, we burnt Hopper, and you're kind of like, they're just being nice to the new guy. He had a bad game, they're just trying to pump him up. But he had 7 marks, so they really started to actually look for him and use him a lot more. And he scored 119 in only 69% time on ground because he spent that time off when his knee was sore. So he could have had, a Setterfield-esque 140 type game if he had stayed on the ground a little bit more. So I think he's in a good place to, I guess, make the money. I don't feel like he's in as good of a place as Setterfield to average, 105 plus, but I'm certainly, it's hard because we're talking right now and we don't know his injury and what it is and how many, if he's missing this week or not missing this week. We didn't have the information at the time of recording this podcast. I'm not looking to trade him out, and if it's a 1 week injury, I probably would hold him. He's coming off 119, so he's going to make a lot of money. And I do think that he's just better than Warple still. Warple, I don't see Warple having those 130 games, even 119. Hawthorn are just really bad, Cheezo. They're going to get smashed, and for Warple would have to do so much to score a 120, like so much. I can't really see it. I think this is probably the best you get from him. He puts in those 90s, the high 90s scores. They're not, I wouldn't expect them to. Maybe they might win this week against North Melbourne, but I wouldn't expect them to win any other game for the rest of the season. This third game is probably going to be Warple's biggest of the season, so he better do well.
And how can you say that they're a chance against North? North are undefeated.
That's true.
They're premiership contenders. The Clarko factor. He's going to he knows his team inside. He knows Sam Mitchell so well he can think his thoughts before Sam Mitchell does.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly. Clarko's a gem, but
I love you trying to keep it together there.
No, look, it's hard to. Warple's not the same level of player that like Hopper is. So
yeah,
I would feel bad trading Hopper to Warple. You might get 100 score this week, and that's great. But I'm just thinking, is it worth the trade? It doesn't seem like it to me. I think out of those 4 mid prices, he's still probably 4th. But again, these are all we've narrowed it down to like the good options. Like all of these people are justified in bringing in. If you can't afford Setterfield, and then you can't afford Jay-Z because it's more expensive, and you have Hopper, then Warple's the logical next person, right?
Yeah.
So all good options.
And just to clarify, head-to-head, if DPP wasn't an issue for Jay-Z, are you taking Setters over Jay-Z? It's the DPP potential in 3 weeks' time that is getting you across the line?
That's right, yeah. I think the fact that he might be a keeper gets it over the line for me. Setterfield.
Even though Setterfield is literally performing and has the role currently, like he's pretending to be like a 110-plus midfielder, the fact that Jay-Z could sub Constable onto the bench, for example, and in a couple of weeks' time is just so powerful that the fact that he's probably going to not score as much as Setterfield is what you find more valuable. Yeah,
well, a lot of people have Hopper and Warple already, so then trying to fit in Setterfield into your team when you already have those two,
I literally can't
work. Yeah, I'm not sure how that happened, but it's hard.
Well, I didn't trade last week. I'm doing everything I can to get Dacos.
Yeah, I mean that's very good too. We can definitely talk about that. But I feel like if you have to get one of them, it's definitely team dependent. But I probably prioritizing the guy who I think could at least be a keeper. But I would 100% be getting one, trying to get two. that's kind of the way that I'm looking at it. I'd be approaching this week.
Well, speaking of trying to get Dacos, I want you to compare these current primos and give me a rank in terms of like literally what we've just done with the mid prices. So I've got LDU, Dacos, and Goldilocks.
LDU, Dacos. Okay, yeah, that's tough competition there.
Yep. So similar thing. You haven't got LDU, Dacos, or Goulden. Like commiserations to your team if you haven't got at least one of them. Where are your thoughts at in terms of grabbing one of these?
So I would probably rank them in. Oh, it's hard. I think Dacos for me is still number one. Probably Dacos, Goulden, LDU, but it's not that LDU's worse. It's only that if I was going to grab LDU, I probably would just be grabbing like Setterfield and Jay-Z and splitting like because of that price. I'd be trying to get Setterfield and Jay-Z. So I just don't find a situation where I end up with 550k, whereas 500 you might not be able to split a Dacos into a Setterfield and a Jay-Z. So I probably that's probably why I'm thinking the way I did. Because I guess if you want me to rank these plays, I've got to rank all of them in the pool of like those mid prices and the premiums.
Well, before we do that, I want to know which ones of those, like the way that you're speaking, it sounds like you're saying Dacos is a must-have, and the other two are if you can grab them, do it. Otherwise, no big deal, sort of thing. Like you're not really sounding like, God damn, like I can't get LDU, like my life is over. It's more of a there's one of those guys that is the big standout.
I think there's three standouts. I think it's Dacos, Setterfield, and Jay-Z. I think they're like on a tier of their own, and then the other guys fall in line in between there. So I also don't think that, like, I wouldn't call Dacos a must-have. Like, if you can't get him because the way your team is structured, then I guess that's okay, and you can pick him up. You know, if the thing is, if you're not getting Dacos because of the way your team's structured, hopefully you're getting Setterfield and Jay-Z. And if you're getting those two players this week, that might outscore Dacos until you can pick up Dacos 5 rounds later, you know, after a couple of tags or whatever, and it comes down to, 520k, 530k, whatever his price is. So you're making up points in a different way. I don't think you have to, smash your side and change it drastically just to try and bring in Dacos, but forego all of the other good mid prices, for that. I think if you can get away with, if it works better for your side to get Setterfield and Jay-Z, then do that. And if it works better for your side to get Dacos and you can still manage to get, Warple, then maybe, Dacos and Warple might be that combination for you instead.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Sorry, it's a lot, Cheezo.
No, I understand. Now I want you, if I'm counting correctly, Dacos, Jay-Z, Setterfield.
Yep.
They're your top three?
I think so, yep.
4, 5, 6, 7 for me.
Oh my gosh, Cheezo, you're killing me. I think I'd be putting in, I think Goulden's still there because of the value. He's like a keeper and his value, so it's probably him. Hopper, I just think LDU will be 600k. You're not getting Hopper. I mean, it depends if Hopper's injured. Pending injury, Hopper, LDU, Warple. I mean, it's all very similar. I don't think we're getting this far down the list, though, Cheezo. I don't think people bring in LDU and Warple. If you are, that's impressive or crazy. I'm not sure which one.
Maybe you started Goulden and Dacos.
True. That's then well done. Yeah, that's true.
I only started Goulden. They're interesting. Okay, so we've gone through some of the really big kind of points per dollar players that we're looking at bringing in this week. Let's talk about some of the big name trade out options. This is definite rage trade, and this is like a rage trade that I'm totally like behind, and you go girl, you trade that mofo out of your team. And I'm going to start us off, Pistol, Sean Darcy. What the heck is going on? He literally killed it in the preseason, and then it looks like he's running around with a stumpy leg like he's been a pirate for 50 years. Like, what has happened in 10 days?
Oh, it's not good, is it? It's that split with Jackson this week, what was it, 58% Darcy and 42% Jackson's not ideal. I know there would be a split.
It's not even just that. Jackson could not be playing and he wouldn't ton right now.
Yeah, Fremantle's form is out the window. You wouldn't expect them to be 0-2 from the first two games. It's not good. It's really not good. I can't really make too many excuses. My only, I guess, I don't know, it's benefit's not the right word, but positive, that's not the right word, in having Darcy is that there is none. Sorry for getting your hopes up. You can jump off if you would like to, and there's now enough information that I think there's like 3 clear ruck choices, which is better than
what are the clear lucks? What are the 3? So there's only 3 that we should be looking at.
I think so
Right now. Right, who are they?
I think English is an absolute monster. Honestly,
yeah.
What was he on 90 at halftime both games this season? And then
he's literally been on a ton at halftime.
It's
and
crazy.
I tried to delete my team and I can't do that mid-round.
He's on the level that we thought he could be on. And it's still an injury risk. Don't get me wrong, that still exists. But his upside, especially if you've started, slowly and you're chasing some sort of upside, he's the guy. He's the only player at the moment that looks capable of pumping out a 180 plus.
So he could be 10 points clear of R2 the way he's going so far this year.
Absolutely. I should have mentioned when I said 3, that's assuming everyone has Marshall, because Marshall's obviously the 4th.
Anyone listening has Marshall.
Yeah, so I've ruled him out. Look, English is... I think we learnt a lesson, Cheezo, of picking players who don't have ruck competition. I think it's more just like, I say that when I'm about to talk about Cameron, but I think, the choice, if we had our time again, I didn't pick him for that reason, but Sean Darcy splitting time, it's just, I'd rather a guy that's not splitting time, and English is probably that guy and has that upside. I think the other option you can go is the safety of Wits. He just gets it done every week. I'm not expecting a 180 ever out of Wits. But I would just be expecting him to go around 110 every week and just kind of chip away. He wasn't great this week and got gifted a goal, by the umpires, and that got him up to a 108. But last week he looked really good. Not really sure what happened this week, but I just think every week he'll just keep tapping it down, keep chipping away. He just is such a good tap ruckman that those 110 scores will keep coming in. So I think he's probably, I don't know if he's my 2nd or 3rd favourite, but he's around there, Cheezo. And the last one is Darcy Cameron. He was so good. I think him and Nick were best on ground. He just looked like he was taking his ruck game to another level. Honestly,
yeah.
It was really like last year was his practice year of being a ruck, and this year is the year he's going to explode. And he had the vast majority, I think it was 72% ruck contests compared to Cox's 38%. So his split was fine in terms of a number 1 ruck, and he does so much around the ground. I think people don't realize that he's not just a tap ruckman. He takes contested marks all the time. He had 18 possessions, 16 contested, which is huge, and still had 5 tackles. He is, I think he's somebody who could average 105, and if it's wrong and he's not, the best ruck option, he's fine for your F6 type situation as well. So you've that bailout plan where you can move him forward and you can get English later, or Gorn at a discount if that's your play or something like that. So, he's just really good. He's really good. So there's the 3, Cheezo. They're all different price points, so you kind of need to. I'd choose English if you're willing to pay up, and if I'm going down, you're only really left with Darcy Cameron. But Cheezo, is Sean Darcy a definite trade up for West Coast with no real ruck?
Yes.
Okay, well.
All right, moving on.
That was simple.
No, I just wanted to go back to, I just wanted to make a comment on Wits. I feel like if you've got the money to go up and you don't have English, you get English.
Yeah.
And if you've got the money to go up to Wits, like you're getting no value there.
Yeah.
So you're either picking Cameron or Marshall of those two that you don't have. So I've probably got Wits as my fourth option. Like, if you've already got English and you're trading someone out, you're going Marshall or Cameron for me over Wits, just personally.
Yeah, no, I can
like
see that.
I just don't personally see a situation where you'd be paying 100k more over Marshall or 140k more over Cameron, just personally.
No, that's totally fair. I think that's very valid as well.
It's the pre, and this is another thing. Sometimes I wish that I didn't watch any preseason, and then I could just have English and Cameron like I had in the majority of my preseason teams.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like they got injured, we took them out. We can't possibly pick them with all the things and uncertainty with the ruck line if they haven't played a full preseason. And then the guys that we knew would be good before they got injured ended up being the two that we want on our team.
Yeah, I had English and Cameron.
Same here. And in a lot of my iterations, Cameron was actually the 13th premium, so I actually had gone less heavy on the mid prices to get him in. So lot of
I ended up
hindsight
with Wits,
bias there,
who I never had in any preseason team at all until I put him in.
And you're happy
Saturday.
with him. You've already got him, but that's what I'm saying. I don't think you'd be paying up at this point if you're getting rid of Shaw Darcy. And I mentioned that he is a trade out, and I think that's because he literally. It's not like he didn't have the opportunity to score. He still had high time on ground. He still had the most hit outs for the game. It's just. I just feel like I've been absolutely sucked in by one decent preseason game, and this is like the where Jackson wasn't playing, so he had 100% ruck and he just ran around and did what he wants, and no one's like really putting pressure on because it's a preseason game. And as soon as the heat's on, he's just crumbling, and then they've just been throwing Jackson in there, and I have lost complete confidence that his performance this year will be, or his role and his ruck share will be anything close to something that is going to substantiate a 110 plus score, which is what I paid 100 average for him.
So, couple quick more things, I guess. Grundy, obviously, without Gorn for the next couple of weeks, he does not look up to scratch as a ruckman at the moment. I wouldn't say a shell of himself, but he'd need to put in some really good performances for me to get excited about him as a pick. I think if you're picking him, it's in complete blind hope that he's going to turn around back to his best. But realistically, he looks like a guy that's played, 8 games in 2 years, because that's what has happened. He looks a bit off the pace at the moment and working his way into it. So I don't think I would go there as a bit of a POD. It would be a play. I think Cheezo, it's probably underrated that, in my mind, I don't think he's not the number one trade out option of the round. No. I think the biggest
team dependent though.
Yeah, very team dependent. I think I would boost as a third trade to get him out, but I wouldn't trade him out above fixing issues in my team and being able to get Nick Dacos and being able to get Setterfield and Jay-Z. I think those guys are a priority for me than fixing the ruck, because worst case scenario, you hold him. I guess that's the worst case scenario.
It is a very worst case scenario.
You can trade him to Gorn in 6 weeks, so their prices will be almost at parity. So, because
I don't know about that. I think Fridge is dropping off the face of the earth.
Maybe, but if it's that desperate, and he puts out another poor performance.
Is Gorn not out for 6 weeks? That's the last I heard.
Yeah, you could wait 6 weeks, but you could also trade.
But then Gorn has to play another 4 weeks for his price to drop, so you have to hold him for 10 weeks.
Just 2 weeks. That's the biggest drop is 2 after that. So yeah, he'll probably be back. You'd be looking around 8, around 9, which is very far.
Could be 300k by
then. You're right. He could be 300k. But
I'm just salty because
you can just do Darcy to Cameron next week. I mean, you don't make money, but you can.
Yeah. The only. Yeah, obviously team dependent, but Darcy to Cameron gets me Ash to Dacos, and it fixes that structural issue. It gets rid of my underperforming mid-pricer, and it fixes my underperforming R2.
Yeah, I mean, that might work for you totally fine.
Yeah, and other teams will be having other things. It's just that I need to prioritise, firstly, my structure, and secondly, not like 60% of the competition have this one guy that I don't have, and he's averaging 139. So
Yeah.
I have to do something, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily that I don't genuinely believe that Darcy is going to get down to 300k. It's just that he is my gateway to Nick Dacos, and if I can confirmation bias myself into hating the fridge and thinking that he's going to be terrible and completely forgetting that he got me to a top 10 finish 2 years ago, then I'm going to do that. And you need to be okay with that and support me because this is my time.
Look, he's got almost no opponent, right? So he could put up a 150 next week, and you're kind of accepting that's the trade-off for getting the other players to fix your team.
Yeah. Flynn went big on him this week, so what's Fridge going to do next week? Pistol, that wraps up Sean Darcy. We're going to run to a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk through some other premium options that have popped up as possible trade-out options for some coaches. So we'll see you guys after the break. Talking about trade-outs, we talked about Sean Darcy. I kicked it off. Are there any kind of big-name premiums that at this point of the season you wouldn't have expected to be on the chopping block potentially that you want to touch on?
Well, Jack Steele's injured, so he needs to go.
Okay, we'll touch on him later because this is an easy one. We're talking about these trade-out options of underperforming premiums that we've seen a couple of weeks. We've got some data and it's like, no, I need to make a change and I'm going to flick this guy to someone else. I'll say a name, and this is not something that I would have expected. I've got people DMing me constantly saying, who should I trade Lachie Neale to? Not should I trade Lachie Neale. It's a foregone conclusion in their mind that he needs to go.
So I will put an asterisk next to team dependent here because there are some teams that have gone 13 premiums who don't have any mid prices.
Yep.
And those teams, I think, are in a position where you can sacrifice a Lachie Neale type to be able to split into three, like a Dacos.
A Lachie Neale type, there's three of them. There's Laird, there's Neale, and there's Oliver.
That's right. Yeah. So it's just Neale. I think you can split him into a premium and two mid prices, and that be very comfortable for your sides. Yep. I don't love going down to a two premium midfield. I think in an ideal world, you still have a three premium midfield, and then you might have a bunch of mid prices, and that's okay. So yeah, very team dependent. There are some teams where trading out Lachie Neale is okay, but then there's others where it's madness because of other things you can do to swap mid prices around. Like I'm not trading him out because I don't think he's going to be a top 8 midfielder. Like he
all right.
most likely will. I would say almost definitely.
I'm going to pull you on task here.
Yes.
Lachie Neale's performances in the first 2 weeks, you've watched them.
Yep.
He's gone subpar in terms of a start to a season that we've seen. Have you seen enough to convince you that he won't be a top 8 mid?
No.
And therefore you should be trading him?
No, I think he'll be a top 8 mid. I'm going to get him in.
So, So by that logic, can I assume that if you had Lachie Neale and you don't need him, like you're not massively structurally deficient somewhere, you're advocating keeping him? Like this is a classic case of just getting someone out because they've been underperforming. Yeah. Like I still think he's been fine.
Yeah, I think you can hold him if you've got the other guys if it's not desperate. Yeah. Whereas I would be open to trading him to get the other guys, but then we talk about somebody like Doherty.
Yeah, okay. That was another name on my list. Talk to me.
Yeah, I see people commenting that they're going to trade him out, but I don't understand that one because I can kind of understand the Neale and splitting into blah, 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 blah. But Doherty doesn't make as much sense to me because Doherty is going to be a top 6 defender, probably a top 3 defender. His role is clearly impacted by the lack of Walsh in the side, who might be back this week or next week. He's been playing at a weird percentage of CBAs because he's not quite a midfielder, not quite a defender, and it's hurting him and his score. And as soon as Walsh is back, we're likely going to be getting that Doherty 110 plus sort of guy. So I'd feel way less comfortable trading Doherty than I would Neale, for example.
Yeah.
Like even as my only way to Dacos, I think I would find a different way and I wouldn't do it from Doherty if I could.
Yeah. The only thing that I'd mention is that Doherty had 0 CBAs in round 1. He had 7% of CBAs in round 2, which is like, I think, 2 in total.
Yeah.
So to me, when we're talking about that he's playing like a weird midfield split, we mean that he's not playing deep defense as part of the switches. Like I'm seeing like Lewis Young kick it to Wiedemann, kick it back to Young, kick it to Sard, and I'm like, where is Doherty?
Yeah, Wiedemann's been getting well.
Why is Doherty standing on the edge of the centre square watching this just switched in front of his eyes? That's the part that I, again, had not anticipated, because it's not something we saw in the preseason. He was either getting like 30% CBAs in a pracky game and then taking kickouts and then part of the switch.
Exactly,
and now he's just they're suddenly like standing in the middle of the ground at the top of the 50 and they don't want to use him.
Yeah, so he's in no man's land. He's caught there at the moment because his role's not either back or mid. So sometimes it's like that last midfield into the contest. It's just not an ideal Supercoach role, but Walsh will be back so soon. So I think that will be okay. I mean, it's a shame Hewitt's out as well. But I got a feeling once Walsh is back, normality will return. So I feel a lot stronger about holding on to him than holding on to Neil, if I were to directly compare the two of those. I mean, the only reason I'd trade him to Dacos is if you genuinely thought Dacos is going to outscore Doherty.
Yeah.
Which he might.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be surprised, but it's possible.
Hey, don't forget that Doherty's round 1 performance was a slightly better role. He was good, and he spent like 20 minutes down the room doing a number 2, from all we can tell.
In the last quarter when the game was on the line, where all the scaling was.
It's like, where are you? Come and get the ball. Like there's 40 points here if you just take a contested mark. No.
That's true.
Yeah, so we've touched on Neil, we've touched on Doherty, they're the two. The other really important one I think we need to touch on, who was a pre-season underpriced candidate, and that's Jack McRae. Mm-hmm. I am disgusted with the role that he's got this year. I thought for sure he would just go straight into being a CBA mid, and I'm watching the game on the weekend, and the ball gets like bombed into their forward line. I see number 11 running like from the right-hand side of the screen out to the ball. I'm like, whoa. The midfield's on the left-hand side. Wait, are you in the forward line? And I'm like, he spent so much time up forward this week.
Yeah, Bevo's been doing the Magnet Man things, and he's even said, I'm going to try Magnet Man things next week, and that scares the living bejesus.
Those exact words?
Yeah, he said, I am the Magnet Man.
I'm going to do Magnet Man things.
Do you know the Magnet Man? Yeah, it's very hard to pick a Bulldog player, a premium that's not Bontempelli and not English.
Yeah.
And McRae at 633k, it's a lot of money to pick somebody who could be thrown any which way. I think if he's a good gateway candidate to split into like the Dacos Jay-Z Setterfield. I mean, it's weird because we obviously wouldn't normally advocating trading premiums, but
correct.
1, the game has changed. Like we've got 36 trades. That's an enormous amount of trades. 2, these guys it's not like Jay-Z's probably going to be a keeper, I think. I mean, that's why you're trading him. So you're not really like, you're trading a keeper for a keeper. You're not trading a keeper for a cash cow. You're just getting a keeper and potentially a really hot cash cow as well, or potentially 2 keepers if you're splitting to like a Dacos and Jay-Z, which many are doing. So that seems.
I'm not
good
sure
to
how
me.
you do that out of 630k, but I think there's some other trades in the background there.
Well, there's another 200k odd guy you can ditch. You shuffle it
just
around.
Turn a McRae into 850 grand somehow.
You just don't pay your taxes, and it's fine. You can get all.
That's a good inside joke there. If I'm looking at I'm looking at the CBA split here, mate. So Libba went from 72% to 91% this week, so just normal Libba things. Bont went from 69 to 77. McRae went from 62 to 41, so it was already low and got lower. Bailey Smith, who everyone was expecting to get more time this year, went 55 to 32.
Yep.
Treloar went from 41 to 0, which means I can only assume he was injured because he's always injured.
Yep.
And Caleb Daniel went from 0 to 59%.
Yeah, they tried him in the midfield and they lost. So
I mean, like, I'd love to see the split. Like, was he like in every single CBA from like round like the halftime onwards or something because they were getting slammed? Like,
well, yeah, not far from that, but yeah,
Magnet
it
Man.
wasn't good. It's enough to scare me away from it.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's a big jump off. There's one I've seen as well, another guy who people are seemingly jumping off, and I would poo-poo that move, and that's Connor Rozee. He copped a head knock and looked groggy, and he was doing really well until that point. Copped that head knock and ended up with a 92. If that's a floor for a forward, that's pretty good. That's really good for a forward floor. And only 513k, like that's very good. And Port, I mean, they obviously just got smashed by Collingwood, and that's clearly why JB's not on the podcast this week. But
he's only on the podcast when they win. Like, I've literally had DMs to ask why he's not on the podcast some weeks, and they've made the correlation with him being on the podcast only when they win.
No, he's sick. Feel better soon, JB. But the Rozee, he's really good, and I think Port are going to be much better than people expect this year. And if they're going to be pushing for finals, which I personally expect, and I think many people probably expect, it's going to be on the back of people like Rozee, and those really high ceiling games are going to come throughout the season. If these are his floors, I'm really excited for how he's going to score for the rest of the year. So I think trading him out is even beyond crazy of all the other options. Like, it's almost clinically insane.
Yeah, I agree. All right, one that you touched on before. No, not at all. I've been going ham this podcast. I'm glad that you're picking up my vibe and jumping on board. I love that.
Okay. I'm glad.
Unduly influenced by me. Jack Steele obviously has the fractured clavicle and AC joint subluxation, so he's going to be missing some time. Absolute trooper to be playing through that, by the way. That's just phenomenal. We've touched on quite a few names right now, Pistol. Is there any name that jumps out at you in terms of the midfield that you'd be looking to trade him to? Is it as simple as going to someone like a Green who's got upside, or a LDU? Like, what's your number one?
So,
or is this team dependent? Are you going to hit me with a team dependent fence it again?
Look,
it could be Warple, he says. It could be Setterfield.
Yes. Yeah, look, I had Jelly out and I didn't trade him to a midfielder just because he's a midfielder. I was like, time to restructure, get in the Dacos, get in the Goulden, get these guys in my team. And I think this is that week where if you have Steele, you think, okay, well, am I going to go down to 2 premium mids? Probably not. If not, I'll get the Green, I'll get the Bontempelli, LDU, whichever value sort of one you want. Great. If you had 5 or 4 and you're like, this is your time, this is where you get the Setterfield as a replacement, and then you get Jay-Z on one of the other lines, and you're living life and you're a happy person, or the Dacos or the Goulden, whichever ones. And I think that's your play from those list of players that we've mentioned about 700 times in this podcast. Apologies that I haven't gone outside the box, but honestly, you know what's happened to the people that have gone outside the box after round 1? Apologies to Finn. I'm going to call you out on this one, but they got Rioli over Dacos and they lost 70 points and probably not very happy with themselves. So just stay in the box at the beginning and try and look outside the box as the season progresses.
Pistol jumped in the box and nailed the lid on so he couldn't get out.
That's basically... I don't know why that's so funny, but that whatever you just said was hilarious.
You weren't even
listening. Really throwing me. Look... Yeah, the time to be in the box is now. You can jump out soon.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah, Pistol loves it in the box. So.
No, come on.
And he also loves cocks. There's a joke in there somewhere. So Jack Steele, if you got give me a 1, 2, 3. If you've got 4 premium mids, all right, here we go. 4 premium mids. What are you doing with him?
Trading him out.
2.
to Dacos or Setterfield or Jay-Z. That's my
3
answer for all of the things.
3 premium mids.
Okay,
fine. Are you still doing the same moves, or are you turning him into a mid-pricer?
Trading. If he's my 3rd, I'm trading him to the missing one of Tom Green or LDU. I'm sure you don't have both.
Okay, see, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay,
perfect.
You got it out of me. That's it.
Lovely. All right. I want to talk about a situation that I was in last week, Pistol, and that was holding Josh Kelly. I want to know your thoughts about was that an okay move? It was clearly not in terms of like points, and we've seen the amount of trades that we have this year is just like go, just start like moving players around. I think the thing that swayed me in that direction is I thought he was absolutely phenomenal in round one. He was on track for a 120 plus score before he copped that knock. Everything was looking up. And I don't want to be in a situation where he comes back and by the buys I'm looking to upgrade him because he's a keeper sort of midfielder or someone that we want to trade in. I think that was sort of lingering in the back of my mind. So I just want to know your thoughts about the whole thing. Is it just as black and white as I should have traded him out last week?
Yep.
Yep. That's fair enough.
When you said black and white, you're talking about Dacos.
I am.
Yeah, no, it's.
You saw straight
I
through
had
me.
Jelly and I had Mackenzie M9, so I had every reason to hold. And it's still early days, Cheezo. I think Jelly's a fantastic pick. He'll score really well. It's just I guess the part that's probably not touched on is like in an isolated incident, then like throughout the year, then yes, but because it happened within the first 2 rounds and there was an opportunity to jump on players who, I guess, dominated and then dominated the second week in Dacos and Gordon. That felt like a safe play for me. That's why I jumped in. If you had jumped onto Horn Francis, who scored 45 and turned back into a pumpkin this week, you're probably devastated. Like you're thinking, why didn't I hold Jelly?
Yeah,
and then you would wish that you did have him. So I think last week I said I would be only trading him to the nailed on keepers. I wouldn't be jumping onto the mid prices, and largely I think that's true. If you jumped on Setterfield, then obviously that worked out for you, but that's, I think, circumstantial rather than, I think that's just how I would analyze the trade. I would suggest the same advice now, knowing what happened again. I'd still do the same thing. But yeah, I think part of the 36 trades this year is the tempo is kind of higher, and we need to get on these players ASAP.
The upgrade cadence, as they say.
Just boost now, get your team in the best shape possible for the price changes. Probably, maybe you trade next week and you get a Bose in or something like that. I'm not really sure what's going to plan out for the week. But it's setting yourself up and then kind of riding the wave and the price rises and being ahead of the curve. I think a lot of these, I guess, new style SuperCoach players, it's just about getting ahead of everybody else, like being a week ahead. You want your team to be the one where people are like, that will be my team next week, because you have so many trades that, you might run out and it might be bad and it might be fine. You might be able to hold on for a top 10 finish. I think there was multiple, actually I know there were multiple top 10 finishers who ran out of trades with 5 weeks to go. I think sometimes it's good luck, sometimes it's bad luck, but you'd rather be in it with a chance to win than be, 50K. So yeah, I think you're trying to just ride the wave, get ahead. You want to be the people that people look at their teams and say, yeah, I'll get that team next week, because then you're doing something right.
Yeah. Pistol, the next thing that I want to jump into is 2 kind of underpriced or mid-priced defenders that we had very heavily featured in our preseason teams, being Crozier and Bose. They've both had really good their first game performances of round 2. I'd love to know your thoughts on both of those as potential options, or we sort of missed the boat with these 2 guys, and just overall what you thought their role and things were like too.
So Bose had such a good role in the first quarter. 50-point first quarter. He was taking all the kickouts and he was half back and he looked amazing. And I was like, wow, I'm already planning my trades to get him in for the next week and thinking, how am I going to shift the cash around? And then he moved into the half forward and midfield role that we saw in the preseason. And that's just way worse. I think he scored something like 85 of his points between like the first quarter and the last half of the last quarter. It's just the in-between part. Geelong it's almost like the Bulldogs, where they're throwing players around, and it's not something I want to buy into. For me, it's a big, warning light saying stay away. When Tom Stewart comes back into their side, I don't believe Bose will be on a large amount of kickouts. But honestly, if he plays 100% down back next week, I'll have to revisit it. But as it stands, I know he's scored well, but he's not somebody I'm looking to bring into my side, Cheezo. And the other player, Crozier, I don't know how I'm bringing in a Bulldogs player with Bevo at the moment. I'll watch him again. If he puts out another 90, I probably would still pass. It's too much of a magnet man for me to feel comfortable suggesting to anybody. If you're a high risk player, you could go for it, but it's a bit too much for me, I think.
I think it more comes in terms of like when Liam Jones evidently gets smacked in the noggin again for the third week straight. Like, is he viable for a straight swap the next week?
Yeah, I mean, if he puts out another 90 odd, his break even will be really low, and you could use him for a quick cash grab. But let's just watch and see. I mean, yeah, plenty of defenders come out with 2 good scores and are terrible for the rest of the year. I mean, Brendan Cox is. Yeah, Nick Dacos. Brendan Cox springs to mind. He's put out 2 really good scores. But it's again, Freo are losing. Like they're playing a game style that they're probably not overly comfortable with. I mean, Cox had 20 touches, which is not too many. He just was a defensive rock. Scored 131 this week and it's only 445k. But I can't, in good faith, be like, oh yeah, get him above Jay-Z. That
absolutely.
Forward defensive status is more valuable. He's cheaper. He's still scoring almost as well. Like, how can I be talking about these guys? I know there was some feedback last week about only talking about a few players and spending too long talking about Dacos. Well, you know what? We've come out here and we've spent even longer talking about Dacos because he is that relevant.
Because we don't take feedback.
If you already have him, that's great. You can get those other guys that we spoke about earlier. There was that list of 7. If you have all 7 of those players, send me your team because I want to know. Yeah. I want to know what it looks like. I want to know.
You're clearly
what your
top
rank is.
10. Yep.
That'd be crazy.
Okay, cool. We'll move on to the next little step that I've got here, Pistol. It's just like a little offhand remark. I know you said at the top of the show that you have sort of been hit by rookie roulette this year.
Yeah.
But I think that my overall observation is that so far this year, rookie roulette has been pretty good. Like, you're looking at Wilmot and Cowan. You're not playing them over Jinby or McKenna, so you're not really getting stung by either of those, and they haven't stung us yet.
Yeah.
Midfield, like Baker, Chesser, and forwards, you've got Green and Davey. None of these guys are really like fieldable options, but they've got great job security. They're just going to be burning away, making cash, and they've been playing well. Same like a Philippou as well. Like I wouldn't necessarily say that rookie roulette in 2023 has been as bad as previous seasons, and particularly like let's say 2021 where Goulden was like 136, 139 the first 2 rounds, and then we brought him on for someone and he was scoring 50s for the next couple of weeks. So it's like I wouldn't necessarily say that we've been hit too hard with the roulette wheel this year.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very much true. It's just having the Mackenzie 93 on the bench in the first week is far from ideal.
Some with Cheezo's 114 on the bench as well.
That's true. And I had Constable bench this week in my midfield as I was fixing my structure. So I lost points playing Callahan and Mackenzie over a Constable there. So you can still lose. I proved it. I am still a loser. But look, I think...
Can I get that as a sound clip?
No, please don't. I think the rookies are a good way to finish up the podcast, Cheezo, because to free up cash for a lot of these trades, you need rookies, right?
Yep.
Not sure what the best way to do this, but...
Well, I'll shout out some names. I expect most... I've seen some people trying to trade out Fergus Green. I don't think that's a good move.
No. He had 4 behinds. He scored 49 in a big loss. He's
thrown away an 80 there, probably.
He's a slow burn that we talk about. Like he will... He's good. Like I kept saying, he's like a good player. I don't think he'll get dropped. I could be wrong, but I don't think he'll be dropped. He just needs to kick the goals. I mean, if that's 4 goals instead of 4 behinds, as you said, it's an 80 score. So let's just wait for that 80 score. He's going to make the money. It's just painfully slow burn, but I prefer my rookies to have job security. That's definitely not a trade out for me. Cheese, if you want to throw out other names.
Davey, Cowan, Wilmot, Baker. But these are all people that are players that most people will have.
Yeah.
If you didn't have one of those guys, are you going out of your way to get them?
I think all of those guys are probably worth going out of your way to get. Maybe not Cowan. I think you probably can leave him, but that's assuming you then have, McKenna and Wilmot and Constable and Jinby. Like if you got all those guys, you probably don't need Cowan, but you can. There's nothing stopping you from getting them. I assume everyone's got Ashcroft, but if you didn't, you probably want to find the money to get him because he's going to make money. And Mackenzie scored poorly this week and his role was worse, but they played Swans, who are awesome, and their midfield is beastly. So I would imagine Mackenzie will bounce back. He's just too classy, so I would still hold on to him, not trading him out.
I'll throw out some names. These are some rookies that I think are under-owned and underappreciated that could potentially be part of the trades that players are looking at doing this week.
Yep.
I'll just say them all off the top, and then you can break them down one by one. I've got Ollie Hollins, Caminiti, Michaelini, Long, and Chandler. They're probably the five that have been probably not like highly owned or highly appreciated that I think you could consider this week if you do need to like, for example, I might be considering going Chesser to one of these guys because I think Chesser's out, his cash gen is dead, and these other guys are looking pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout. I don't know if I would be going Chesser up to Hollins, but Hollins is good if you're going someone down to Hollins. I think that he looks really solid. I think he's earned that wing role for a couple of weeks at least. So I would feel comfortable doing that.
Well, he started the year on the wing, so like, has he just solidified his job security, or is he's already earned the wing position?
Yeah, it's technically true, but there was always that risk that I thought someone was going to push him out. But he's earned a couple of weeks in my eyes. He's just been really good, like really, really good. So he's probably somebody that I wouldn't mind bringing in if I needed somebody. If you need cheaper, I think probably your risk is worth it with the Chandler upside. I mean, Chandler scored 71, but he was one of... I mean, Demons didn't have that many good players. They'd be pretty upset with their performance. I mean, the game looks closer than it was. They were getting pelted before the blackout occurred, and Chandler was a bright spark. I don't even think he scored any points after the blackout, to be honest. But yeah, 71 this week, and he pretty much almost turned up last week. These are games that Melbourne... have not been good. And I think Melbourne can have those games. They should have many games where they win by 6 goals plus. And if you're a forward in those sides, you're probably going to get around the ball. But Chandler's been really good at pushing up on the wing and getting the ball. Like he had 6 marks. And the only players that basically got 6 marks before the blackout for the Demons were, I think it was like Ben Brown and Lever. I think everyone else, and maybe Brayshaw, but everyone else hadn't reached that amount of marks before the blackout. It's like pre-blackout and post because Melbourne came out a different side, or Brisbane didn't come out. I'm not sure which way you want to look at it.
Which is hats.
Yeah. So, I mean, his job security is not the best, so there is a risk that, next week he has an absolute stinker, and then... Cozzy Pickett comes in and gets dropped immediately. Yep. And if you're scared of that, then you've got a 102k playing option who looks pretty good himself, just the scoring potential. I wouldn't be expecting the 70-plus scores.
Do you want to say his name? So everyone knows who we're talking about?
Caminiti, I think.
Oh, yeah. My training paid off.
Did I do it? Yes. I'm practicing pre-podcast for like 30 minutes because I don't think I said it right once. Pre-podcast either.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, so his job security looks better at the moment than Chandler's, but his scoring potential, I think he's peaked. I think that 73 is like as good as you probably hope. Too. He's going to be more of that, 30s to 60s sort of scores and a slow burn, but at 102k, that's all you need sometimes. As long as it's got good job security, I think that's fine. It's just Chandler's got the potential to have 2 games make 100k type situation. So it's whichever one fits your risk appetite or the money that you need, I think sorts itself out between them. I probably wouldn't look at Michaelini or anyone else. Long, probably not. I mean, he might score a decent score, but he scored very well from 7 touches, I think he had. Was it? Or fewer?
Yeah, a bit of tackling pressure, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So it's like I think they're both got reasonably good job security. They play positions that their team actually appreciate as well, so I think is important. These are names that you could be looking at. I like that you specified that Holland's you're likely having to go up for him, so that's going to impact the other trades that you make during the week. So it certainly comes down to Chandler and Caminiti as who you're really tossing up between. I think there is the potential that Chandler gets like 2 weeks more, and then Cozzy or something happens and he's on the outside, and you've already made 100K from him.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? So whereas. Yeah, Caminiti, like if he averages 50, you're only making 150K for the year. And it's like you're getting that by the time everyone comes back. Like Max King is back from his shoulder by the time that he's made that money. So I think if you can get a fortnight out of Chandler, that's significantly the better move.
He could be sub though and lose all the money quickly too.
That's true. That's why I specified if you got a fortnight out of him.
Yeah.
And that came with the pretense that he was playing.
True.
Not that he was not playing.
Yeah. No, it's fair. I mean, there's other players that play like Harry Roaston this week and Connor Stone, but I don't think any GWS boys probably. It's not high on our list of wants.
No, not even premiums at this point.
True.
So
I mean, maybe Cogs. Cogs is good. Sorry,
I don't want to talk about GWS.
Cogs is good. It's just not a desperate trade in.
All right.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's one GWS player that we haven't really talked about because he hasn't fitted into the rookies and he hasn't really fitted into the mid-price discussion, and that's Finn Callahan. Pistol, you brought him in last week and you're saying this week you're trying to get rid of him. We should acknowledge the fact that he had a subluxation of his shoulder, so it's not like it completely dislocated, but he's had injuries. He always plays with strapping on both shoulders as well from memory, so he's clearly got some issues there. Yeah, he was just really, really poor this week. Even when he came back on, I just thought he was... I guess all of GWS was poor, and this is the problem with being a wing, is that you certainly rely on the remainder of the team being in sync for you to get the ball. And this is something that, people were thinking, but I rated him much higher last week because I thought that he was going to suddenly get a massive boost of CBAs this week. I didn't think he was necessarily a massive trade-in option. But I saw the upside that he's coming off the back of 100 and he's going to go play the Eagles, and there's now a really clear midfield spot that someone's going to have to fill. And Harry Roaston came in for his first game and took that with 61%, and Finn Callahan only went from 3% to 18% this week. So that aside, he clearly wasn't going to get the uptake that we thought. And I still think he's going to be a great player. He's got good pedigree. But I think now with the little bit of an injury niggle and stuff like that, he's an awkward price. And as we're in the process of restructuring our sides, I do think that his name is on the chopping block. And that's precisely why that you're not taking any ego into the equation. You're just saying, yep, he's now no longer the pick I thought he was. I need to get rid of him.
Yeah, I definitely feel bad trading somebody in and trading out. I just know last week, I mean, even if I traded in Hollands, there's no other way for me to get Jay-Z. And I would have to trade out the person I traded in, just the way that my team works at the moment. So I can't feel too bad. But Callahan, that shoulder knock is really worrying. He did get 13 touches in the second half, so he was very much amongst it. But I am worried about future health for him. We were already worried preseason about the foot. Now I have to be worried about the shoulders. Once they sublux, correct me if I'm wrong, Cheezo, but it's more likely to happen again. So
it's more that it's a pre-existing condition, not necessarily a vastly increased risk that it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
But
it's maybe more susceptible or something.
Yeah.
I have enough concerns that based on the role as well, I wasn't happy about bringing him, but I'm happy to cut my losses where I feel like I'm not going to get value out of the pick and trade him back out. And I wouldn't be bringing him in this week. I think, if you're going to go down, at least get Hollands or something like that. Or if you're going up, it's only 60k away from Warple. It's probably the better pick there. I say laughing because JD told me that last week and I couldn't afford Warple and did think Callaghan could match him and was swiftly proven incorrect.
Humbled.
Yes, that is definitely how that one played out. But I think this is, pick kind of in no man's land for me. If you have him, I don't think you necessarily have to trade him out. In fact, he's not very high up on a list of trade outs. It's just, for my team personally, it's the only way for me to get to Jay-Z. So given I already have Setterfield and co, it's a missing piece. But yeah, it's a trade up for me. Question, because we didn't touch on it, and I know a lot of people, well, more than you would expect, have Lockie Ash. Whitfield didn't play.
I was just thinking that.
Only scored 94. He's still a trade out.
Yeah, he had 40 in the last quarter, I'm pretty sure, as well, to recover a 94. Like, he was on 50 at three-quarter time. It was looking really dire after being on 30 at quarter time. But yeah, he's clearly not going to be the player that we had seen in the preseason game.
Yeah,
and thought that he was going to be. So he's definitely a trade out, and make no bones about it. It's not personal. You just got to, same with you with Callaghan, you just got to get rid of him and try and make the overall team better. Pistol, we'll jump into some VC and C options. And look, I know this week I see is the same way that you like your ice cream, and that's vanilla. I think it's a very easy, straightforward, a Bont into lead for me. If you have those guys. But probably the biggest VC option is going to be English for those that have him. There's going to be a lot of people kind of going, particularly say Darcy to English this week and whacking the big VC on him and probably getting it like a 130 plus again.
Absolutely. I think if you have English, you have to pretty much whack the VC on him. I could argue maybe you want to do a Dacos against Richmond. I don't think I love that more than Bont. I think that might be just a bit of hype from last week. I mean, we saw the 149, but Richmond have players that other teams don't have that might be able to sit with him more. I don't know if that's a Baker and, because he can do everything, but I feel less confident in Dacos against Richmond than I did against Port. So I'm not going to do that myself, but I could see that as an option. LDU against Hawthorn, if you don't think he's going to cop the Finn McGuinness tag, which I think he probably does, then, geez, I'm just thinking now, imagine if Cheezo got the Finn tag. How rough would that be? I was
literally just thinking that.
Wow, that would be so rough. Way to kill a kid's confidence. I hope that doesn't happen. That would be devastating, and we'd lose so much money in SuperCoach as well. That would be truly upsetting. But to get back to the point,
stop talking about these things. Every time you say it, it comes to fruition. Stop putting it out in the universe.
No, LDU Finn tag. I think let's lock that in. And I. Probably enough for me to stay away potentially from there unless you wanted to go specifically unique. And that gets us up to Madden. I guess if people have Chesser, you have a larger variety of VCs. I think the problem I have with this round is a lot of my premiums, and I think a lot of most people's premiums, play really early in the round. Finish on Saturday. There's not too many premiums on the Sunday. I mean, you'd have to be very ballsy to captain Darcy on the Sunday, or Oliver against Swans, but it's not a great matchup, to be honest. It's probably going to be okay, but I don't think I would be expecting a 200.
Nah, he'll still do 125 plus easy though. He's just doing
maybe
all of the
Took Miller. You could VC someone and captain Took. I think that's probably okay, but there's not. It's all the action's happening early in the rounds.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, well,
I agree.
That's it. There isn't any more. It's Madeleine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy. And probably Windagger goes to one of the Bombers boys as well, just on top of that too. So even
Zarrett or Parrish and not Setterfield.
Setterfield. Setterfield gets tagged.
No, don't
Pistol,
put it in the universe.
Thanks. I'm allowed to because I can't predict anything. You should see my starting squad. Thanks everyone for listening. You can find us on our socials at Dr_SC on Twitter, or our individual handles. You can find them on the page. You can check out merch at the merch store at drsupercoach.com.au, or join up to Patreon at patreon.com/drsupercoach to get part of the Last Coach Standing competition starting this week. And also, if you can leave us a 5-star review on any listening platform that you are on, whether that be Spotify or Apple, that helps get our brand out to more listeners. And we'll top 10 in fantasy or in sports, in football podcasts in Australia last week. And that's without the call to action. So if you can throw a review if you are enjoying the content, that'll be much appreciated. Pistol, thanks for sitting down with me, and everyone will talk to you in the next episode of the Dr. Supercoach podcast.